Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vancouver edition of the Icehouse and Friends poetry launch. I'm Trini Finley, and today I'm sitting in for Ross Leckie, who's the poetry editor for Icehouse at Goose Lane Editions. He's an old friend and mentor of many poets, and he couldn't be here today, so I'm filling his shoes. Um, Although we have poets and friends from across the country here today, we would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and 𝗲𝗡 nations. This is a very exciting afternoon of readings by the authors of 3 new poetry collections published by Icehouse or Goose Lane Editions this year. So we have Chris Hutchinson, who's launching his collection in the vicinity of Riches. We have Tanja Bartel, who's launching her collection Everyone at This Party. And we have Jessie Jones, who's launching her collection, The Fool. And we'll also be joined by Icehouse friend and poet Kayla Czaga. Each poet will read for about 10 minutes, and I'll introduce each poet before they read. So we're going to start with Kayla. So Kayla Czaga is the author of 2 collections of poetry, For Your Safety, Please Hold On, and Dunk Tank, which was a finalist for the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize. She lives in Victoria, British Columbia, and serves as the poetry mentor for Simon Fraser University's The Writer Studio Online. To read her poems and to learn more about her, you can visit her website, which is 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃.com. Please welcome Kayla Czaga.
Thanks, Trini, for that lovely introduction. And I'm really excited to be here celebrating Tanya, Chris, and Jessie's books. And I'll just be reading 4 poems from Dunk Tank, which came out last year. And then turn the show over to the new exciting books. Very Panties. One Christmas, Santa gave you a set of panties, so jumbo, you called them your Thunderpants. Wherever you went, you went with Thunderpants in your navel. You loved the way they left deep red runnels around your midriff. Loved them the way one loves an icky childhood teddy. They made your butt look like a Greek column of clouds, divined by the Delphic oracle as an omen of great olive forbearance. Such were the days you loved your butt, in billowy rainbow parachutes. You were 7, and showed off your Thunderpants to grocery store strangers every chance you got, believing your butt would become a skydiver, or even Prime Minister of Canada. Who was he who made you, so many years and underwear sets later, in that Honda Civic's back seat, believe differently? Michelle on Instagram. I liked the photo of you eating. I liked the photo of you stacking your panties into a suitcase bound for China. I did not like China. Its unreliable Wi-Fi spaced out your face until little of your face remained in my life. But I liked the photo of you and your turtle in China. I tapped on its shell twice with my index finger, liked. You with your students in China, you at Chinese Disneyland with your fiance, you chewing God knows. The photo you took of Paul Simon's cardstock cutout wearing your army green parka, you drunk leaning on a balcony. I liked Paul Simon, Vincent's ramen, your new apartment, that other bitch you sometimes hang out with who isn't Paul Simon. I liked your wedding, everyone crying at your wedding, double tap. I liked your wedding so much, along with hundreds of other likers who liked your wedding. Mimosas, swans, lasagna. It happened so fast. Your mother, your grandmother in coral, her hair turned way up. Sorry for saying I should have been a groomsman. I liked the groomsmen, I tapped on their faces. I like you in beer league, swinging a bat through Leo season. Can you feel me tap on your faces? Liking your life? Do you like your life? I like it so much, I make all the small hearts underneath you light up. It's weird doing an online reading. I can't ask if my sound is good, so hopefully my sound is good. And continuing the theme of photos and the internet, this is selfie. I asked Zach to show me where we are in the milky swirl. Here, he said, pointing to something nebulous on his screen. And it felt like searching a first trimester ultrasound photo for its heart, pretending I see it too, the tiny life inside chaotic dark. We are simultaneously moving towards and away from a black hole at the center of our galaxy. We are a bug on the windshield of a tank gunning along the Autobahn. Even smaller, Zach says. The bug that bug had for lunch, if that. It's sad being the bug other bugs nom on. Even sadder is the fact there aren't any other bugs. No one complicit in our spinning. It's just us. I lied when I said Zach and I live above a nightclub. It's a thrift store, and anyway, we don't even live there anymore. When I ran out of clean clothes, I'd grab a shirt off the discount rack and smell like a stranger all day. It shrunk my loneliness, I like to think, living like that. And I'll just read one final poem. This poem kind of starts with the idea, what if Winona Ryder was the underworld? And I thought when I wrote it, I was very serious about the poem. And then when I read it out loud in public for the first time, everyone laughed. And so I thought maybe it's a funny poem. Maybe you'll think it's serious, I don't know. Death, starring Winona Ryder. Her eyes are the three faces of Cerberus. The third hides behind her shocked bangs. No, the third is her pursed mouth. If you zoom in on Winona, you will see her skin is filled with third eyes. We call them pores. Each one of them is rolling. Each one of them ahead to the dog guarding death. Of course, an actor covered in third eyes that also guard death would be difficult to work with. What did you expect? She has the most magical acne. You may feel her whole body making eye contact with you, because it is. But mostly her whole body has better things to look at, like very long trains and sexy rivers. If the dogs guard death, then inside of her is where all the dead people live. All the living people live outside of her, eating pretzels, etc., like you and me. Wow, she's extremely haunted. Ever thought Beetlejuice felt a bit too same to your home movies? Me too. All our Ouija boards call out Winona during sex over and over. It would be boring if it wasn't Winona. Don't call her a bitch, though she is covered in bitches, and sometimes they are in heat. Sometimes you can smell her skin. It smells like it just ran into the yard and murdered something so quickly you didn't even hear it die. But when Winona dies, what happens? What will happen to us when Winona dies? Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Those were amazing. Next, we're going to have Chris Hutchinson reading from his new collection. Born in Montreal, Chris Hutchinson is the author of 3 previous collections of poetry, which are Unfamiliar Weather, Other People's Lives, and A Brief History of the Short-Lived, as well as the speculative autobiographical verse novel, Jonas in Frames. He holds a PhD in literature and creative writing from the University of Houston, and he now teaches at MacEwan University in Edmonton, Alberta. Please welcome Chris Hutchinson.
Hi there, thanks Trini. And thank you, Kayla and Tanya and Jessie for being here and reading it. And I will never look at Winona Ryder again in the same way. I think you should send her, if you can, you should send her that poem. It's fantastic. All right. This is the book that I'm launching, In the Vicinity of Riches, from icehouse. Here's a poem from it called Mobile Fragments Poured into a Vase. Lemonade instead of limelight. Meth heads of the Bowling Green unite. iPhones to symposiums like bridegrooms to the invidious ex-duchesses of crash reports. Dear cicatrix, in your plasticine pajamas, so fossil, so amaranth, so honeycomb. Nova Scotian snowbirds, why all these painterly disinfectant cake-complexioned selfies? Hey, gentlemanly pantomimic stand-ins, my myrmidons for your multivocal whoop-de-doos, your acid wash for my razor burn. Ah, milkweed like mildewed mop heads and acquiescence. Oh, electronic cigarettes, vespers, and then later caterwauling beneath the horrible gymnasium. Okay, so the next poem I'll read, which I'm more and more convinced is, like many poems in the book, is probably some kind of extended metaphor for the present political situation in the United States. But this poem takes place in 1814. It's called The Day an Elephant Walked Across the River Thames. And this was during the last little ice age, and the River Thames used to freeze over, and folks would go out onto the river and kind of have basically they were called frost fairs, and they would sell wares, they would drink ale, and entertain one another. And so 1814 was the last time this happened. So the day an elephant walked across the River Thames. I'm certain that morning I heard wasps drowning beneath each floating sunlit surface. The billowing, high-peaked tents staked virgin space as if they were the early outposts of an empire on the rise. Here was a scene nothing in Chaucer or Blake or my continental tours had prepared me for. How unlike the bored bewitchment I'd glimpsed in that pigeon-eyed chancellor of the exchequer, his gaze drifting out across the ice-locked Thames, now white as a mirror mildewed with steam, toward the Blackfriars Bridge, where sundry Londoners miraculously stood, swilling gin mixed with wormwood, inside the honeyed smoke of roasting oxen. I remember questioning my senses while testing the urge to skate along that entrepreneurial shore, to escape, as it were, the trick of my next life, how it should begin and when. In the distance, draped in icicles, St. Paul's dome appeared, a popish embarrassment. In ecstasy below, the tents rippled out in their fairy rings, blistering against a frost that had grappled with the river god and won. At the far edge of Europe, on an island now the center of a new, unreasoning, mechanized might, the chancellor shut his eyes to pray. Everywhere, the sun was hewing wasps from the amber of its own desire to be restored. And now, I'm almost certain I'd just begun to step onto that brittle stage, one last act of Napoleonic verve, the morning when it happened, when what occurred, occurred. And this next poem is titled Liberal versus Conservative and Aesthetics. This is to argue that at the dead center of the unicycle's unconscious mind, an enormous green chamber has withstood decades of human sleep. Between wet silver spokes, pearwood, picture frames from the late 19th century betray the vacant truth that those who offer the most passionate praises and applause suffer in secret the most unerotic deficiencies. They rotate, circulate. We wander the gallery, sift with our eyes the sparkly detritus, yet all of us arriving and wondering at Duchamp's bicycle wheel, upturned unicycle, clownish crucifixion planted at the heart of reason. I think I have just one last poem. Oh, there it is. So this poem is entitled North American Figures of the Capitalocene. And the idea of the Capitalocene or Capitalocene is really piggybacking off the idea of the Anthropocene, although people postulate that really it's the advent of capitalism that is really the driving force to the present environmental devastation that we see, kind of indelible, making its indelible impression on the earth. So this is North American Figures of the Capitalocene. Tell me how you feel, how this figure stoops to live, as if to write of suffering were itself a kind of suffering that does little more than resemble shame, wounds pouring from its fingers into the dirt. But the rich won't be persuaded, or the poor redressed. The dirt stays inarticulate, and human nature propagates exactly as we hedged. Unmoved, I hesitate. In the vicinity of riches, fail again to act. Tell me what to feel. As summer swells my appetites, as my appetites feed insatiable regrets, and now this world seems only one of many bitter seeds the wind has gathered, swept along, and then haphazard dropped. Commerce must be that which makes things happen. It gives to take. Through and for itself it consummates, fattens silence with self-applause, and never bows to earth as if to stay alive meant to kneel and beg before the question of its own insufferable emptiness. Show me how to feel. Teach me what this means, or grant me riches, beauty, fame. I'll toss away this body like a coin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was wonderful. And I love the idea of replacing Anthropocene with capitalists. That's amazing. Next, we have Tanja Bartel reading from her new collection, Everyone at This Party. Tanja Bartel holds an MFA from the University of British Columbia, and her poetry and nonfiction have appeared in numerous venues, including Geist, the Antigonish Review, and the American Journal of Medical Genetics. She lives in Pitt Meadows, BC. Please welcome Tanja Bartel.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank Goose Lane for producing these beautiful books. And Chris and Jessie, Kayla, I'm so proud to be reading with you. I chose the following epigram for the beginning of my book. Baby, one night, somebody going to strike a match on a tombstone and read your name. Frank Stanford. This reading is dedicated to the people of the suburbs and outer limits of Vancouver, where I live and work. Our lives are reflected here. I'll be reading 4 poems, starting with my title poem. Everyone at this party. Look around. Everyone at this party is someone's horrible childbirth story. I'm either an expert or a one-trick pony. Either way, it's taken my whole life. Don't have a favorite cowboy, prefer freedom to the lasso. Crickets kick up their heels in the fullness of the exploding heat. I could hurl a boulder into the Fraser River, and it would be there after every current occupant on the planet is dead. Grass along the banks greens up, yellows down. Water, the most easily influenced substance, doesn't show its age. Fleeting dandelions never end. It's a miracle, but we don't see it that way. Each new sunrise blinds us and we start over, same as we were yesterday and the day before. Bitchy in the morning, angry to bed. After we die, people will say we lit up a room when we walked in. I wrote a series of phobia poems, and this next one deals with that particular kind of humiliation that comes with getting older and fatter in a fishbowl profession like teaching high school. Everybody's perpetually young and cool as you decline. Current phobia 3, 𝗳𝗍𝗶𝗲𝗄. Sprung from the hair salon with a smooth back-combed flip, I looked like Betty Draper in her fat phase. Went in unkempt, came out kempt. Asked for sexy, messy beach hair, paid for a docile bob. Everyone is trying to tone me down. Inwardly, I scream. I conjure charisma, inventory my expired cosmetics caboodle. Create infected, smoldering eyes. I believe in pipe dreams. I track advancements in infomercial face creams. I wear baggy shouldered blazers, the same black loafers with various dull skirts. I know all about healthy eating on paper. Kale and cauliflower, good. Mini donuts and wieners, bad. A skinny boy principal evaluated me once, stroking his silky chin hairs. He nitpicked while I bootlicked. For relief, I cobbled together a rhubarb cobbler. I climb out on the ledge, my resolve derelict. Sometimes I come in for Eggs Benedict. Sleep deprivation has become a thing, except in meetings, screenings. Dream of my dead friend, a little plump in a red pencil skirt, curled up with a glass of wine. She drinks forever in my head at night. Perspiring and coffeeed up, a beige upholstered creep, I roam the hallways 90-degree angles in 90-degree heat. My deodorant is a liar. Lately, I want nothing as dangerous or deep as one night of unbroken sleep. Love bite. Now there's a term I connect with. Sideswipe, not as much. Current phobias. 𝗨𝗨𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙 me talking. Yet acousticophobia, fear of noise, includes my own voice. Atelophobia, dread of imperfection, cowers with atophobia, fear of ruin. Each morning, I wake anxious but cheerful, aware that sleep is death's rehearsal. Big truck, no luck. April, and the geese are yelling. Just my luck, stuck behind a gravel truck. chucking rocks off the back like a bad schoolboy. And me, late for school teachering. The sopping raccoon slumped against the concrete barrier, still there. I need my sleep, perchance to not dream about my father, earthquakes, my dead friend. Forgive me, sister. I won't tough love you in my dreams at night, where you're free to drink. I got paid today and the money's gone. Fuck, I'm stuck. I remember reading about highway hypnosis as a 70s child. How drivers will follow the car in front of them rather than think for themselves. If everyone jumped off a bridge, would you follow? Why, yes. Yes, I would. If everyone was jumping down to California. My last poem. A brief dalliance with the world. My back seat soaks up the parts of the river my dog kept. We all smell something coming from the outside. The road widens and I see the giant droppings of concrete struck with rebar, left over from the last century. And until today, I thought it was the future. First, we lived here in these condo towers, shopping the glutton warehouses. Later, a tour guide walks us through to see the style of people we used to be. Like a boomerang, the night returns. The smoke comes down to my feet. My river keeps leaving me every day, but there's her long tail. The crows didn't leave us for summer this winter. Like us, they can get used to anything. The mountains stayed without choice, but crows, who are allowed to fly, choose to jerk around this city instead. Free will not capitalized upon, even with the means, I mean. It makes me wonder how much choice we have. We can walk, but we won't walk out. When I whirl around to see who's following me, it's just the river eating through my time. On a day like this, I can walk forever, cloudy, a little cool. No crime in the green field to my left. No crime in the river beside me. But death, yes, resting in every duck. Grime inside the man who got cancer and abandoned his boat, now half submerged, the oil of it shining for eternity. On my memorial bench, write, in memory of a river who lived from beginning to end. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Our last reader is Jessie Jones, who will be reading from her new collection, The Fool. Jessie Jones grew up on the prairies, spent a decade on Vancouver Island, and now calls Montreal home. Her work has been shortlisted for the Malahat Review's Open Season Poetry Award, for ARC's Poem of the Year contest, and for Prism International's Poetry contest. Please welcome Jessie Jones.
Thank you. Thanks so much for hosting, Trini. And as always, thank you to Tanya and Chris for being a part of this road show, and to Kayla for coming along. It's so nice to see you read. Yeah, so I'm going to read from my book, The Fool. And the book kind of came together over a period of years. And during that time, I lived in a bunch of different places. But it started while I was still living in Victoria. So I thought that I would read some of the poems that I wrote there. And I also realized afterwards that the poems that I had chosen all sort of like take their titles from other places. So I will, yeah, I'll cue you into those as I move through them. The first one is called Heaven of Indifference, which is a line from Good Morning Midnight by Jean Rhys. Be more cautious. Fourth floor, walk up. Walk out, hospice. Grab a hip flask and capsize your Titanic smile. Bus pass. Crosswalk your grit to a frayed fiber. Dread calmed, wine squall in a green glass bottle. The city winds a minus through all transit. Brake lights melted to an orange block. Right there. Stop it. Imagine the place into a brass chamber. A bar bent as a French horn where the lost graze on the pure grain vodka of a bloodlit bulb. Edison. Sell your soul for a prayer plant's slant way of growth. Is the night mic'd for your crowing? Bus meals. Church Street queen flush with the swagger of a losing gambler. Opal-eyed kaleidoscope at the choke point of last call. Its barbs snagging on the gloss of your hospital bangle. Fresh wrapped. Travel is a bag you've carried across its own border, wholly uncertain where you have been, who took your blood, who kissed your ring. Turning down the slow dance of a warm bed to lug your second best ass back to the booth to prove wrong those who declared you dead on the throne. Fear of missing your own revival raises you up for one last song. Floor clears and reels, veers on its axis until you're right back where you were meant to be. Spotlight. This next one is called Red Bouquets Adorn Her, and it is taken from, it's a line actually from a poem written by Barbara Guest called The Poetess. The vegetarian meal is an apple. Okay. The man with so much to say lays everything on me when his hands were full. Okay. Nerves, he burbles, nerves. Okay. So I write the clouds down, settle into the stone of my head, ringing Mercury. He only wants company. Okay. Proximity is a time bomb of politeness. Who will go off first? Sure. The flight is long and off and on. He only wants attention. Okay. We vault through a clock of color, catching up with the turn of the world. Okay. He only wants and wants and wants. Our need, right? My need. Mine too is deep and terrifying. A rock you toss that goes into the dark, or that you toss into the dark that goes on falling without sound or severance. Okay. Ask me what I do all day. This. Parry interruption, gentrify risk, lob assentment over the gate for vampires wanting in. Yeses trodden over, caked with dry mud. Okay, okay. What do you do? Next one I think I will read is called Leopold Stkowski is a Man of the Future. And it takes its title from a Glenn Gould radio documentary made in the 70s, I think, about Stkowski, who is a musical conductor. And everything I know about him is from that documentary, which is excellent. I think he was around 80 at the time that it was recorded. And what I took away from it was just this like excitement about the unknown and specifically like space exploration. He was really fascinated and like really hopeful that he would encounter and be able to meet and interact with alien life forms. And yeah, it really stuck with me. Anyway, Leopold Stkowski is a man of the future. Although I am interested in everything, I have thought mostly of birds, swarms contracting like an iris as they rise in a scherzo, flitting 𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃 tone rows. That is not true. I must have thought of our colossal solar system, its nun-like cloak and coldness, mass of mind and mineral calm, its possibility. How fine to be alive in this century, to witness a pocket camera and its capture of planets, ours strange, plated, a nest of blue eggs and lava roving south with desert slake, an ice lake. How would I describe first seeing Venus? A bare breast through a sheer dress, its sphere defined by the shadow that bends it. What privilege to stretch the crease of its limits, the universe, I mean. I want to convene age permitting with other life forms, post-exorbitant journey, learn what they find beautiful and orderly. Knowledge is symphonic, the rehearsal's scritch and seizure of pretense softened under rosin. Somewhere exists undying time, a bow poised over a neck and its throat constricted with the thought of a song. I must redact that last. It was birds all along, their delicate notation. Even in the end, they slip back through the atmosphere, stark notes rising from the conical valley, inspiring gravity in the body, as it did just now. And this final one is takes its title from Freya Jacques, which I'm sure you are all familiar with, and I also quoted in the poem itself. It's called "Morning Bells Are Ringing." Impatient ambulance boils over the roads, and when it arrives, I'm starring in the role of a bandaged head wound, ambulating the haunted rooms of Jubilee. The bedside linguist tips flashcards in the blank ward. Diamond, bone, cactus, masterpiece. For days, I can't find my foot or middle name, but my mouth keeps filling with kid French, the bald lark, the brothers singing Dormez-vous, rêvez-vous. Myself comes back in turns, in sunburns, in the symphonic shift to spring. But sometimes a rattle renews, Hungarian opera with razor strings, carrying the smell of a picnic basket once scorched by an ant, or the scrape of a skirt in an allemande left with the corner. During nightly walks, I make tender goals. When the furs appear, I will return home. When I hear the grass risen of a deer bed, I will recite the body includes and is the meaning. When forgetting seizes, brain shaken and muddy, I will head in the direction of light. And like a plainsman lost in not yet Saskatchewan, I will follow the scent of a phantom ocean. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessie. And thank you to all our readers. Thank you to Kayla Czaga. Thank you to Chris Hutchinson, Tanja Bartel, and Jessie Jones. I would like to encourage everyone to purchase these amazing books and to purchase them from your local independent bookstores if you're able to, if you have them. And so that includes Kayla Czaga's newest Dunk Tank. That includes Chris Hutchinson's In the Vicinity of Riches, Tanja Bartel's Everyone at This Party, and Jessie Jones's The Fool. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to all our poets and friends. And we look forward to maybe seeing you another time. Thanks.